I answer to anything.
Tessie Stevens.
Here.
Steffens.
It's all right.
Bob Kleppel.
Here.
Gavin Woodley.
Woolley.
Here.
Difficult time tonight here. Betty Werner. Dave Waymeyer. Dan Cassette.
Here.
Debbie Totenbush. Jeff Patke.
Here.
Kevin Creedy.
Here.
Greg Scornio.
Here.
Darren Lamb.
Okay, let's have a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing on the agenda here is the approval of minutes. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor from Bob, second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Parks report?
Been working on a number of things this past month, I should say. I met with Rebecca Mayer of the Arts Council Friday, I think it was the 21st or so. And the Arts Council is looking at places around town, and they have a spot picked out at Oak and Third, which is LB's lot there. Rebecca was wanting to make a pitch to LB about possibly using that lot for city sculptures. And so we met, and she had something sketched out, and her goal was to meet with LB by the end of this month, end of February, I should say. And I was out of town last week at a conference, so I need to follow up with her and to see if that meeting did happen and see what his reaction was to that. With that said, you'll see later in new business, I'm looking to form a committee. I talked to Larry Pogue back in January, shortly after I started, and there was a conversation about getting a couple pieces out now, or sooner rather than later, I should say, by spring. And so I've looked around town a couple places. Chad and I have looked around town a couple places. And so we're looking for a subcommittee to come up with 2 or 3 places to put a few sculptures in the parks by springtime. So I'll talk a little more about that later. But as far as the Arts Council goes, they were supposed to have a meeting with LB by the end of this month, and I'll follow up and hopefully have another report next month.
Wayne, that Third and Oak, is that the grass lot there
Yes.
that's been open
Yes.
for several years? Okay,
Are,
thank you.
are these the sculptures that were donated prior?
Yes, a few years ago, yes, those sculptures. And they're in storage right now at the Missourian. So, also another thing I wanted to make you guys aware of is that pool passes, we're in the works of selling pool passes back at the pool this year. I know, was it last year or the year before? Pool passes were sold at the park office, so you had to go to the pool, or inevitably moms would go to the pool, find out that you couldn't buy a pool pass there, and then go to the park's office and buy them there, and then go back to the pool. We're moving that back out to the actual pool, so you show up in one spot, pay your money there, and then go in and swim. Just more as a customer service convenience type thing. There's a few things we had to work through. There was some issues, I think, in the past with the equipment getting hot and malfunctioning then, so we're looking at some fans and some things to cool the equipment off to be able to produce those passes kind of as a customer service type thing. So we're working through that, along with some other, just general getting ready for the pool and things like that. One thing I did want to update you guys on, last month, we had River Relief here, and they were talking about their fees. And Darren and I met with the organizers of that, and we came to a conclusion that they'll be charged $125 for Saturday, I should say, when they have the actual trash cleaning up event, but the Wednesday, Thursday event where they have the schools down there, generally no one uses the pavilion during the week. And we told them we would basically pencil them in. And then if anyone would come to us wanting to rent the pavilion, we would let them know, and they would basically have first right of refusal. So they are still paying, the $125 for Saturday, but nothing on Wednesday or Thursday. So it's kind of a compromise.
How come we didn't get to vote on a recommendation on that?
Because anything, the way I understand it, anything with fees has to be approved by council.
Correct, but we can, anything
we
we
can make
do is a
recommendation.
recommendation to council,
Yes,
and therefore, presentation, in essence, if we don't get to vote on it, why are they wasting our time doing the presentation?
yes. Darren came to me and he wanted to meet with them, and we kind of, because they were wanting to waive all the fees or whatever, and so we just met, Darren and I met with, I think it was Mike and the lady, I can't remember her name right now. Gloria, yes, sorry. And met with her, and we kind of, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll make sure we correct that in the future, that, that message is conveyed, so.
Gavin, I don't want to answer for Darren, but I know we discussed that and the fact that Darren felt as though it wasn't needed to go into a rental fee for that Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday for the school kids. And therefore, when we sat here last month, he was like, that's something we can take care of in-house and not bring it back to you for a recommendation as far as that goes. Now, the rental fee for whatever the pavilion is, that's set by the Parks Department, so they can do that without coming to us for every rental fee we have. So it seems as though you may have gotten skipped over, but it's really Wednesday, Thursday, we're fine to have the school kids down there without a rental fee. Saturday is a rental fee. Parks Department takes care of that, and therefore, we got a presentation, but we really weren't looking for a recommendation from the park board on what we should or shouldn't charge. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
It's because we're not gonna come to the park board every time we want a recommendation on a rental fee. We wanna work on that where it's set, and then they can rent a pavilion without asking you, or rent that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
well,
what if-
it,
Well, I have a question. What if the park board, if it was brought to us and we would have voted to waive the fee?
Right, that's what I,
Well, again, I don't want to speak for Darren, but I think in this case, it was a presentation. It wasn't an asking you to waive the fees.
see, I was under the impression it was.
And that's what that's what the conversation, if Mike would have came to staff or the Parks Department, Mike Smith, and said, we have this every year, it's a benefit for the community. The school kids are down there for 2 days, no problem. Saturday, we do have a rental fee for the pavilion. It's a rental fee, and it's done. In my opinion, it didn't need to come to you and ask your permission if they could have it there.
But
It was a
weren't they given us at no fee in the past?
I'm not sure on that. It was canceled last year due to weather, but I don't know what it was.
And Mike wrote, sent an email, because I had asked him, what did other towns along the Missouri River do?
Right.
And he came back with an answer that basically some of them gave it away, and we were the only one with a park, I think, on the river. And I understood he was asking for, at least me, I thought he was asking for us to waive the fee.
As did I.
And the fact that we even discussed it, because the fact that they're cleaning up all along the park area. And so this would benefit the park in a big way.
Right.
And so I thought, at least I was in favor of, I'll
Waiving.
come right out and say it, I was in favor of coming out and waiving the fee, because they were gonna do all along the trail, 4 miles, and through the park system.
I agree with you.
And
I'm not
and if-
disagreeing.
And
with
if
you.
we had to get our Parks Department out there to clean all of that up, it would have been a lot of money, a lot of money. So,
I kind of agree
I-
with Sparky, I would
that-
have voted that too.
Well, and again, I agree with you. I'm not saying that I'm
Okay.
rocking the boat. All I'm telling you is I think this is the process that was taken.
I understand.
And then if we have issue with that, then we can have another conversation about it.
well, let me ask you a question. Is there any reason why the park board can't vote on it right now?
I think it's already been decided.
It's already been
Has
decided.
it gone through the council?
Well, I asked Aaron about it right before he left, and I took it to be that it was a done deal. I could be
Okay.
wrong,
All right,
because I said, oh, you're not gonna stay because of this issue. And he said, no, we've had meetings and it's set. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, when we met, they seemed okay with the 125 because we supply trash dumpsters and things like that.
okay.
In
Now, the way
addition
I
to just
understand
giving
it,
them-
we don't have any ordinance that will waive the fees yet.
Correct.
So we
Correct.
can't really waive the fees because we don't have an ordinance that will do that.
We can on a specific
We're trying to
matter.
get this where the Friends of the, Friends of the Park will get discounts and whatnot. We have not done that yet.
We,
That's how I understand it.
well, if they were asking for the fees to be waived, and the park board supported that, and it went to the council, and the council approved that, we could waive the fees
For that
and
event.
advise the parks board, or the park commission to waive the fee.
Correct.
We didn't come to that stage. Mike Smith gave you a presentation. We all took it as though he was asking for fees to be waived. Darren took it upon himself to meet with them, and Wayne and Chad, whoever, on the side, gave him the 2 days that he didn't need to.
Okay.
Gave him Saturday as a rental fee, and everybody was happy, and we feel shot at here. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, and it's my understanding as far as waiving the fee is concerned, as far as the park board is concerned, if we as a park board feel that it's benefiting our park system, we would do that. If it was the Friends of the Park and they gave $5,000 or something like that, we would then give them a discount. But we could do that if it benefited the park. That's my understanding. So,
Mine too.
yeah,
But we don't have,
A direct benefit to
I
the
know.
park, I think, is how it was
In this case, if it
presented.
would've went that far, and you guys approved waiving the fee, it would've went to the council, and the council would've taken your recommendation or not, and we could've waived the fee at that time.
Okay.
We didn't go through that process this time. And again, I'm not speaking as though I agree with everything, I'm just telling you that's the process.
I
I'm
understand.
taking
I understand.
In this case.
So be it.
Right here in the minutes, it does say, we are hoping, since the nonprofit working on a low budget, the Parks Department would waive the fee.
Right. That's what Mike said.
Yeah, it's right here in the minutes from last meeting.
I know, that's what Mike said, he asked.
Yeah,
That's a,
They decided to go ahead and just take the 125 and call it good.
Okay.
because initially it was, I think it was
Yeah,
875.
'cause some- yeah.
And then they got a deposit back, so then they would have been paying, I think it was like 375 if, nothing was destroyed. And so we worked it down to 125, just a $125 rental fee for the pavilion. And then, that also includes the trash dumpsters and everything else that we provide to them. And so they were okay with that. Plus, they're gonna have some vendors down there, I think, selling some stuff too.
Okay.
okay.
Anything else in the Parks report?
Let's see. Working on soccer fees. We wrapped up the baseball, softball fees. Monday, council approved the baseball, softball fees. Starting to look at soccer fees. We have a meeting with the fees committee on March 14th, tentatively right now. Library roof, which I know doesn't really concern parks too much, but it is part of my job, is out to bid. Those are due back tomorrow. We had the main stage fencing, what I call field trip, on February 26th, and we'll talk about that shortly. We have bids out right now for American in Bloom plants and mulch. Those will be due back this month. And then also, we hired a new parks guy. His name's Ben Schmittler. He started on February 21st, and he's replacing someone that was let go in December. And we're renewing the mowing contract with Hillerman. So that's the parks report. Any kind of flew through that. Any questions or anything?
Hillerman's contract, what does that entail?
Oh, that entails a lot. Parks, I don't have the list in front of me, but it also includes stuff for, go ahead, you're more familiar with it than I am.
Don't quote me on every area because I don't have it in front of me.
Well, it used to just be the east end of town, and
We have on the west end of town, Main Park and Echo Camp Park are included in that now. Then what we're proposing is the street department got money allocated in their budget. So when we went out to budget originally, our bid for that originally, there was areas that we had, alternative areas, and the street department and the recycle center and landfill will also be added onto that contract if the council approves that. But basically, I think on that contract, we have Optimus, Riverview, McLaughlin, Krog Park, Riverfront, then part of the right-of-way down there along Front Street, then we're gonna be posing more, because some of that stuff the street department cut and some of it we cut. So now we'll be proposing to do the street department to help free up hours and stuff for that, what they had allocated. Pretty much everything we had last year for the parks, none of, the parks, the water department, the fire department, none of that changes. It's just what Public Works and the refuge has. There's a couple more areas being added to.
Any other questions? Nobody here for communications? Old business, you already kind of gave a report on the update of the fee schedule.
Yes, and so the other one on there is the aquatics complex. We met with George from Councilman Hunsaker last Friday, and he gave a report on the pool and the findings, and I have that. We were having printer problems earlier today. I was going to print it and have it for you guys, but I do have one copy that printed out without jamming up, and I can email it out to everyone tomorrow. But it was a good meeting. The gist of it is, from what I gather from what he had, is everyone, some people would like to see an outdoor pool that's covered for lap swimming, but generally most people want pretty much what we have now, just newer. So they want play features, they do want lap swimming, they want diving boards, they want a new concession, or a new bathhouse, concession stands, things like that. So, but that is wrapped up, and then, you know, the next phase is we'll have, they were not hired to design it or anything like that. Now they did propose a few things, some concepts, I guess we would say. I am working with the Aquatic Facilities Committee, and we're looking to take a couple field trips, or a field trip, I should say, to see a couple pools, possibly later this month, and possibly using the Chambers bus. There's a pool that we'd like to look at up in Marceline, Missouri. We think that after talking with Darren, and I just had a phone call late in the day from the company that built that pool. I have some proposals from them. Their build pools more what would be in our price range. So $3-4 million, and they build a lot of them that are all kind of look the same in features. She said in the voicemail I got that there's a couple pools in the area up that way, so northern Missouri, outside of Kansas City, that we could probably hit in one day. And then I'm still looking for a couple pools around here in this area, possibly Eureka, in the St. Louis area that we could hit too. When I asked George, our consultant, about pools in the St. Louis area, I didn't get a real clear answer. He did recommend Eureka, and I can't remember the other one. It escapes me now off the top of my head. But when I asked him how much Eureka's pool was, he couldn't give me a clear number. He told me that it was, the money for the pool was mixed in with the rec center when they built the rec center, and I couldn't get just a pool number from him. So I do know the director there at Eureka, and I talked to her last week at the state conference that I was at, and I emailed her yesterday, but I haven't heard from her yet. I'm sure she could pull that number for me. So once I get that, I'll know a little more. So that's kind of where we are with the pools.
What time are you thinking about leaving that morning? You know, for Marceline?
I don't know. See, it just depends how many pools we can hit in that day and how far.
Okay.
I haven't even gotten how far. Like, I don't know how far it is from here to Marceline, Missouri.
Okay.
I did look it up on the map to see where it was, and they do have I guess Walt Disney was born there. So they have a Walt Disney Museum there that we could hit while we're there. But it just depends where the other pools are. I think fairly
Okay.
close, she said, but I don't know how many we'll hit in a day, and so it's
Okay.
still preliminary. I wanted to mainly get the date out. The date I pitched out was March 29th. It's a
29th.
Friday.
Yeah.
And that seems to work well for everyone that I've heard from so far, so. So I think that's it for old business.
Okay. New business, the fairgrounds fence.
So we met on, I think it was the 22nd there at the fairgrounds. It was raining, kind of, cold rain. And we walked the grounds a little bit, mainly met inside the building there. And we looked over the proposals. And there was not a decision made there, but we are looking for a decision, a recommendation tonight to move on with this process. So you had in your packet A and B, proposal A and B. Now, there was some talk of if we did proposal, which one is it here? A, that we still need a temporary fence, that purple line in the middle of your packet there. And that possibly the Parks Department or the city would provide a temporary fence to renters. So we would buy the temporary fence, have it on hand. When someone came in to rent the main stage and needed that temporary fence, then we would pull it out of storage, bring it down there, and they would be responsible for putting it up. The fencing that we looked at are those like construction type fences where they're on they have metal stands and you all hook them together, kind of like almost like Lego blocks or whatever, and you hook them together and fence them across the field there. Then the other option was the orange fencing, the plastic orange fencing. And so we have numbers on those, what it would cost. I'll pass. That's the first kind of fencing we're talking about, kind of like the ones that hook together, the pieces that hook together. And so we figured out we'd need 350 feet of temporary fence. And that piece, that fence there that you're looking at, for that amount, we bid it out, it was like $3,600 to buy enough fence to do that strip through
How
there.
much?
$3,600, $3,600. And then the orange plastic fence we could buy to do that 350 feet would be about $400. But they would still, with the orange fencing, they'd be driving fence posts into the ground themselves and possibly a rock, if it's August, it could be solid. I just don't know if, as far as letting renters come in and, if we say they have to install it, if they can find someone that can drive a fence post into the ground when it's rock solid, where as the picture I passed around, they could just, we'd bring them in on pallets or whatever they're stored on and say, here you go, set these up across the field there. So those are the options on the temporary fence. And so what we need from you guys is a recommendation on either Exhibit A or Exhibit B.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know this is a nice fence, it's a wrought iron fence or
Yeah.
whatever. Is there any way we can get a bid on Grant Avenue in chain link? And just have the rest of it in the wrought iron and Veterans Drive?
Yeah, I guess we could. I don't see why we couldn't.
Why is that?
Well,
Curious.
because I know what the mowers do to our chain link fence. And I just keep seeing that there's a lot of grass there, and chain link fences are a lot better when it comes to mowers. And the other thing is, everybody's worried about being overpriced, that we're gonna be over budget. I just wanted a separate,
But it would be black.
yeah, just a black chain link fence, just like's up there on the fairgrounds now.
Yeah,
Just on Grand
everything-
Avenue that sits off, 'cause-
Everything there currently is chain link.
yeah.
You
And,
know, all-
and I like the idea of the Veterans Drive by the stage being that wrought iron. I mean, that is nice.
Yeah.
But I just see, we've had batting cage incidents, and there's been plenty of incidents where
That's a good-
mowers that hit
that's a
fence.
very good
That-
point,
That's
yeah.
gonna be a whole lot.
I wouldn't see why,
And I'm
you
just
know,
saying-
I don't see why you couldn't request that in a bid package.
Just say, what's the difference in
Okay, so,
Grand Avenue?
I don't have a problem with that, I just have a question. I thought it was all gonna be black chain link fence.
No.
I learned the other night at the meeting, that's the first I ever heard of it.
So, I apologize, I didn't make the walking field trip, so, but that long run from the stage up to Grand is not, it's not black chain, what
No,
is it?
It's wrought iron. Well, it's not really wrought iron, it's a,
It's a, s-
Basically,
if you know what's in front of the stage now,
Yes,
it's like that, except for it's taller.
Like what's around all the buildings.
right, got it. Really?
And that portable metal fence that you're talking about, is there other areas we can use that throughout the year in the park system that would kind of offset the price of that a little bit to help us out in different areas?
Chad will answer your question, but my thought is whenever we do the event at Farmers Market and we put the 2 yellow barricades up,
You
that
could
you
use
put
fence? Yeah.
5 of these sections up there and it'd be a little bit more of a deterrent. I don't know.
Yeah, right now, we don't have any that we named out or anything, but, you know, I would propose probably to put that in this bid too, so it'd just be a group, you know, with that fencing, that this would be part of that whole unit, so that it could just be used there, but we definitely could use it at different entities or for different projects or something, I'm sure, throughout the city if, you know, we don't use anything like that now, but it doesn't mean that we won't have a use if once we have it.
Right.
Bob, it should be around the well house hole on Studeman Road right now.
Should be, yeah.
I mean, I'm just telling you, I think it's something that could be used. We can put those things up and around there.
Well, the other thing about that plastic fence, you know, they're gonna have to get Diggerite to market every time too.
Well, and that's,
There are electric lines running through that field.
Yeah.
yeah, well, and that's part of the rental agreement anyway. That's something we'll be working with the fees and charges to make sure we get narrowed down what we're going to supply and what we don't. I mean, now, it should be an extra fee if we have to go out and mark the fields, or they could have, you know, electric lines, or they could have an electrician come in or something, somebody to mark them, the private or, you know,
Well, this-
non-private
this Metal
lines.
temporary looks like the way to go to me, but.
Me too.
It does to me too. I'm sure we can use them throughout the year.
Once we get 'em.
Different events.
Well, the plastic fence isn't gonna be longevity. I mean, because you're,
Right.
and no matter what, when we talk to Mark, Emergency Management and everything, that either fence that they use, there will have to be a parking plan that also goes with that. So the renter will have to make sure that they have cars parked certain ways to keep people from driving through the fence, which they do at the fair now, kinda. They already have that kind of planned. But Mark said he could actually draw the plan out and say, this is what we have to have. We could have so much room in between the cars. So if there is a mass evacuation, that they can take the fence down and get out. Because, I mean, that's one of the main concerns on any of the event. We don't want cars driving through the middle of all the people. And we don't, you know, and we want to make sure if something, storm or something comes through, that if we have to do a mass evacuation, that we can get people out safely.
So which method do you, does the Parks Department, you guys recommend, Wayne?
I don't know that we had a recommendation as far as the Parks Department goes. I mean, either option's fine with us. We were, you know, really looking for guidance from you guys. And we all met down there, and I don't know, we had different, I mean, each one has its pros and cons.
Yeah, they each got their pros and cons. The main thing that, you know, from us, we just want to make sure if, you know, the temporary fence was brought up at that meeting.
Yeah.
And then we'd actually thought about some other events that we have that we probably also have to utilize these at. So, I mean, if we're not going to do this, the one with the divided fence, we definitely need to include the temporary fence that we can, because that's one of the renters' concerns, you know.
What was the height of that fence?
Which one? The temporary,
metal.
6 foot.
6 foot?
The, I'm going back to what the wrought iron is. 'Cause that just kind of throws me for a loop there. I'm not opposed to A, but then I want to be sure that there's at least 2 gates along that road.
Oh, there's more than that.
Along
There will-
veteran,
now where-
veterans, yeah, we discussed.
Oh, yeah.
that. There would be
So,
4-foot
where-
gates.
Here,
Okay,
this, actually this, we
Right.
talked about putting.
That will always be open.
right.
Yeah, we'll have them
There's an
unlocked.
event.
Perfect.
Correct.
Every one of these roads has got a gate.
And what,
Over here, we talked about two
Hold,
gates.
Yes, 2
Danny?
gates.
to the contrary. Well, we talked about putting a fence on the inside of that side road.
Yeah.
And if we put it on the inside of that side road and you get a rain, then everyone's gonna try to drive through the grass and up the hill, and then they're gonna run into the fence. So after you left the field trip, we talked about that and leave it where the trees are at.
Leave it where it is,
Yeah.
right?
Leave it where it is on that thing there.
I'm good with that. I just,
Steve brought that up, and it makes real sense to me. If you're parked down
What about
next to
the
Veterans
trees?
Drive in the field, and you get a
They're gonna cut
dewy night for that matter, and you park, you're gonna end up doing fishtail
they
into
had
the
a
fence,
fence, so
and then we're gonna lose
a
the
gate for each one
fence.
of
So we
these
wanna
roads.
get them to a side road and then.
You're not cutting the trees down?
No,
No.
No,
I'm
they'd be-
serious.
no.
Don't, I'm
Only two.
serious.
Only
No.
2 of them.
Save the trees. I don't care about the
gonna put-
fence.
Only 2 trees.
Here,
Desi.
though.
No, no,
There's
because,
a talking
but
about
there
one
will
big
be,
one there and one
as long
down.
as there's gates from the
When this
stage
was on the other
up,
side.
because
yeah, what A doesn't show is there's supposed to be 2 gates in there. They were added in after we created the
fine.
maps or
That's
whatever.
great.
So, and they would always be unlocked, so you could get up there with your kid to play soccer or fly.
Right.
That fence is gonna be 6 foot tall, except for where it's on the
same
rock
here,
wall.
veterans.
It'll be a 4 foot tall.
This is grand.
And we
Okay.
actually talked to, according, our building inspector, the way that wall is now, it already should have a fence on it, or a barrier
This
on
is
it.
grand.
Well, I agree with Danny that the chain link, at least
You're
then,
right.
it
We-
ties into what's already out there.
We can put a alternative bid in there very easily to just have that section bid both ways.
because if we get to where we're
It's like,
over budget,
The money is gonna be really close.
It would-
I mean, there's $100,000, according to what I see, that is allocated out of the half-cent sales tax.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard different numbers, but according to the sheet that I have, that's what's allocated. But, it's generally up to the council, if they wanna change that or not. But the money's gonna be really close if we go with the wrought iron, and that was one reason that the proposal was, the B proposal was taken, is to try to figure out how to get the fence down, that we can get the park usable, so we can rent it out more for events.
When, on this diagram, this still shows that the fence along Grand Avenue is on the far side of the
That
path,
will,
but
that
we're
will
gonna
stay that
put it-
route. We discussed that because if we move it to the
It's gonna go
inside,
right where it is.
when the way the cars park in there, if we move it to the inside, you'll be driving along the fence all the way to get back up to the
Gotcha.
Rhoda Mill Roads, and we're afraid if it gets wet, people will be sliding into the fence, and we'll have a whole nother issue,
Okay,
Erosion.
erosion,
but we're not losing any trees there either, right?
no.
No.
We're not proposing to
Yeah,
cut any
there's-
trees down.
No, this way they'll slide into the trees.
No trees
right.
that will be
Save
cut
the
down for the
trees.
fence.
No trees for the fence. Now, if they're dead, we'll cut them down.
I had a fence onto the tree.
as soon as they're done drilling holes in the roots, they'll,
A couple other things that were discussed that day. Option B really is not advantageous to us, mainly because if we put a permanent fence there, then we don't have a good evacuation plan. We'd have so many gates in it that it just doesn't make sense, and it's just not, it's not the right thing to do at this time, because if the fair ever does grow what they want to grow, then we're replacing a permanent fence as opposed. The other option was, do we even need it? Do we just put a temporary fence up when someone wants to rent it and let it go? Steve Stolentrep was there, he made a good point, and we talked about it after. We went out to vote for the capital improvement sales tax, and this was on that, and the people of the city of Washington approved this. So for us to sit here and say nothing at this time is not the right answer either. So, I don't want to say our hands are tied. I think the idea that Danny's saying, get 2 bids, wrought iron or chain link on the Green Avenue side. If that bid comes in at $1,000 difference, we can make that decision. If it comes in at $10,000 difference, then that's going to be a good selling point. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Include the temporary fence in the bid, for sure. But I think we're looking at, like you said, gates, don't take down the trees, and Exhibit A, for sure.
That fence, when Steve and I looked at that, where the pin oak trees we're probably, 10 or 15 feet off the trees, so we'll be actually, it'll be up in the grass area, opposed to being on the lower side, closer to the street. because you put them lower to the street, it makes it hard to maintain you can't cut that ditch and everything through there.
Yeah,
So we actually proposed to be, and really, they never parked along them trees anyway, so if we can, the trees will actually be outside of the fence.
Yeah, when we walked that,
On
we made
veterans.
sure to leave enough room where we could get like a mower in around the tree and still have enough room not to hit well,
There'll be probably at least
try not to hit the
Try
fence.
not to hit.
10 or 15 feet so that we can get the lawnmower through there.
Yep.
So you need a motion.
We need a
Yes.
motion to recommend.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend Exhibit A with bid and alternative bid, like Mr. Packey just said, include the temporary metal fence, no plastic. I don't think.
What
that-
about the chain
And, yeah, well, I want two bids.
Both ways.
And gates, and the gates.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Okay, we have
I will second that motion.
a motion on the floor by Tessie, second by Gavin. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Fees for the motorsports arena.
Okay, so we had a gentleman come into the office recently, and he would like to have a monster truck show at the motorsports arena. And so he was asking about, and he does these shows around the area. He was trying to do one at Warrenton. It's an extension of, if you guys seen it on TV recently, they had one down at the Dome in St. Louis, and so this would be it's part of that, but would be a much smaller scale. And so he would have these trucks come in from wherever they get them from, and he wants to rent the motorsport arena. And when staff started looking into it, we realized that we didn't have anything in the ordinance for a fee for the motorsport arena. And so I sent out an email recently to the Fees and Charges Committee. A couple of those members were here today at 5 o'clock, and we spoke about the fees. Let me find my notes here. And so initially, the fees that we do not have in the ordinance is a damage deposit for the arena, and then the charge for the actual arena itself, including the bleachers. And so we had thrown out some numbers, just thinking 1,000 for the damage deposit for the arena, and then 800 for the arena, the actual arena itself with the bleachers. And so figuring up what this rental would cost this man, we came up with a number of, it was like $3,400. So it was $600 for the fairground, for the grass areas and to be able to close the gates and things so he can control access. Proposed fees for the arena then was $1,050, damage deposits of $1,500, which was $500 damage deposit for the fairgrounds and $1,000 for the arena. Key deposit of $100, and then $100 to have it reserved the day before the event, and $100 for the day after. So total was going to be $3,450. After talking with a couple members before this meeting, since we don't have anything on the books in the ordinance for fees, it was suggested that we just charge him a flat rate of $4,000, that would include $2,000 for the fairgrounds and then $2,000 deposit. So he would basically get $2,000 back as long as he returned the fairgrounds to the condition they were in and no other damage was done. Because otherwise, with the $3,400, he was getting $1,650 back. So now he would be, if he doesn't destroy anything, he'll be getting $2,000 of the $4,000. He'll be getting $2,000 back. So that's where we are. I wanted to see what you guys thought of that
Wayne?
fee.
Do we have anything on the books from when the JCs used to have their demolition derby?
We couldn't find anything.
That's what I was thinking.
No charge.
Let me say,
Charge?
I wanted
We
to.
kind of went back and kind of looked, and we couldn't really find a solid number that was taken, because the last several events that was out there, they had no charge for that because the money benefited the All Abilities Park. So that was kind of the agreement. when that All Abilities Park, that they, for their donation part, they could have them, host them events. We wouldn't charge them for the grounds. And they gave all the money that was, all the proceeds from them events back to the city for the All Abilities. So the last several events that was had, which has been years ago now, we kind of looked back and we couldn't find a good solid number that was there.
What about that car show?
They usually rent the fairground, so that would be fall under the $600 amount. So it didn't include like the arena. There was never a separate for the arena, and then like the building down, the motorsports building. It's new enough now that we've never had a number really allocated for that. This is probably the first event since we've really did a lot of since the fair has done all the modifications of the motorsports. You know, like put the fence up and all that. This is probably one of the major events from another outside individual that is coming to look at it.
We also talked about that, because, I mean, it's the first event in a long time, that if this would go to council and they would approve, it would be a one-time event for now, because then we do have to look, you know, we haven't gotten all the fees in order for various other things that might be rented out there. So this was,
This is just a one-time deal?
well,
Yes.
this.
One-time price for this event.
price.
For
Just,
this
just for this,
price,
yeah, for
Yeah,
this
and then we
event.
would evaluate when we're
Yes,
doing the
then
fees
it's
and
gonna be
charges.
evaluated.
Because we also had discussions at that meeting about trash, about electric, if, you know, if they need electric drops for concessions or beer trucks or something like that, you know, we'd have to, once we sit down with the person doing the event, we could come up with some of them fees for this one-time event. And then as we're going through all the fees and charges, we can all discuss what should be the true fee and see how this event went. If it's going good, maybe we'll stick with this fee from then on. But that was kind of discussed just to get this, because they want to do it in June, so we want to move this through it, you know, pretty fast, and maybe we want to make sure that we look in the future to make sure we don't miss anything.
He's estimating an attendance of maybe bringing in 3,000 people for this event. So that's a number of people coming into our community, so there's some.
Right. I think it'll be a great event.
Yeah,
I mean, we had.
And it's,
I mean, we all remember, you know, the JCs. You know, they had monster trucks years ago and derbies and stuff, and you know, I think it'd be great use of the grounds again.
Yeah, I needed an answer last week. That's, you know, one of these, so
Oh, the
it'll
date.
go to council a week from Monday.
On the 18th.
On the
Yeah.
18th.
Where does that fee fit into, like, other venues in the area? I mean, is there any?
That's what we haven't had, because he needs the information, he needs to market it and get it out. He keeps asking us if we have a number yet.
That's why
but
we
haven't had a
want to do it
chance
on a one-time event just for this event, and that way we can do more research and find out what everybody else is charging in the area.
Now, he mentioned in passing that there's another, I guess, arena nearby in Warrenton or whatever, and that their fee was $5,000, and he thought that was pretty high. So this would be under that. And it seems like he really wants to do the event. He's been contacting us, wanting to know what the fee is. So I
He
think
wants to
he's-
make it a
We
recurring.
want to make it fair, and, you know, everyone seems to think that it's a good event and it'll bring people in town.
And as well, I think it's kind of a good, you know, let's run with it and monitor it and see, you know, if, you know, we're on the right track with our thinking at the $4,000 level.
Yeah.
We can adjust, you know, if it's, you know, if we make a bundle on it, well, obviously, we're not gonna make a bundle, but, you know, if it runs smoothly and everything's good, then, you know, we get an idea of, yeah, that's a good fee.
Yeah, usually, you know, the first year with anything is the toughest year getting it off the ground. So if it does go well, then hopefully he'll be back in future years.
One of the other concerns too was about the hours too, and we want to make sure that we let them know that, you know, the event needs to be over by midnight. I think is what we discussed in the last meeting we had, because we were concerned, you know, about the neighbors and stuff too.
Thank you.
oh, and also, Chad, tell him about, he brings dirt in, brings it
Yeah,
out.
when we talked to the gentleman, he kind of said in past that, you know, I kind of mentioned that, you know, during the fair, we scrape up the dirt and we could use that for, you know, they use that there, but we'd have to be careful not to mess up the tractor pull tracks because, you know, in a couple months, we're going to be back doing that. And he said generally, they don't have a problem with hauling in the dirt and hauling the dirt back out or even leaving the dirt there. It just depends on what we would allow them to do. So they really would do less disturbance. He said they always try to leave the property better than what they brought it. You know, so this isn't his first event. He had a lot of information. I think it seemed like, you know, pretty genuine guy that would do what he needs to do.
Will you contact previous events and see what kind of track record he has?
I mean, I guess we
As far as
could,
leaving something in better shape than what they.
but that's why the deposit is what it is. So if he doesn't, that we can, you know, that we can return it back to.
So we figured the $2,000, if they left the track a mess, that what it would take city staff to kind of grade it out and get it back to in shape, that $2,000 would cover that.
And if there's any other damage, I mean, he's still required to have the insurance and anything. So if, you know, something happened to the building or something like that, that's all covered under his insurance.
You need a motion on that?
Yes, we need a recommendation.
Okay, so I make a motion that we accept the fee, the one-time fee for this event at $4,000, and it gets passed on to council or where it needs to go.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Tessie, second by Betty, to approve the recommendation by the fees committee of $4,000, of which $2,000 is a deposit. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Shingle Tech final payment.
Yes, so in your packet, well, I don't know if it was in the packet, but I wanted to make you guys aware that we completed the final payment to Shingle Tech, the roofing package F, I believe it was, or C. C. And so that's done. And that included the freight depot and,
Train depot and freight.
or, yeah, train depot and freight depot, sorry. And so that's complete. That project is complete, and we're still working on, like I mentioned earlier, right now, the next one is the library roof, and those bids come back tomorrow. And then, once we determine what the bid amount there is, that'll determine how much money we have left to do a few other roofs in the park system, so.
Okay.
And is that still storm insurance reimbursed storm damage?
Any questions on that one?
I asked Wayne today when I met him here personally to, when we're done, I think we need a number on what we did and what we saved, because I think we've done a fantastic job getting roofs replaced when 2 or 3 years ago we were told it's going to cost us a fortune to do this. So not necessarily just a kudos, but as a park board, I think you guys would like to know all the roofs that were done, the money that was spent, the minimal amount of money we spent, and what it could have cost. And I think we're going to be happy with that number.
Oh, sure, I got in trouble for wanting to close a pool for a year.
Yeah, yeah. We'll close it for you.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yes, you
I
did.
did, and that's why I want to do it for the roofs,
We were short of money, and Danny said close the pool.
for a year.
Speaking of the pool, next thing on the agenda is the aquatic
did the
facility results, and you talked a little bit
Yeah, I
about that.
talked about that in my report, and so
Yeah. But I think the amazing number, a number of people were amazed at 1,500 responses for a town.
Yeah, I was
They were
at the
really
state
pleased.
Parks and Rec conference last week, and I was telling a lot of people, you know, they were asking what's going on in Washington, and so I was telling them about this process, and I was telling them, and Councilman, our contractor was there, our vendor was there too, and they did presentations and such, but just talking to peers in my field and telling them how many complete surveys we got back, it's astronomical. I've done those Survey Monkeys myself for different things. I've sent them out for different things throughout my career, and I mean, I've never seen, even if we would have gotten 500 back, I would have thought that was amazing, much less 1,500.
Yeah.
So,
Tell those 1,500 to show up.
yeah.
Yeah, go swimming.
Yeah.
Danny still wants to close it.
He does.
Okay.
He does.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
And then you have the art sculpture subcommittee on this, but you have already talked.
I did talk about that too. So I'm looking for a couple people that can go out and find some spots in the city to place a couple of the city sculptures that we have in storage right now. Chad and I have a couple ideas, so we can, whoever would like to be on that committee, we can kind of run those by you guys, and you guys can go out and look at them, see if you agree, and then once we kind of have something in place, then we can get some out. My goal is to have a couple out, 2 or 3 of them out by spring.
Okay, are you looking for some volunteers then, a couple?
Yes.
Volunteers from,
From this group.
okay, who wants to raise their hand?
I'm gonna be gone. I'm going to England, so I can't, I'm gonna be gone. I am. Bye. See
She's
ya.
already checked out.
See ya, I checked out.
I'm going back to Mexico.
I mean, if you're trying to get it done by spring,
What
Yeah,
would this entail?
yeah.
Oh, just going out and seeing if we're looking for basically a few spots in the city that will be highly visible, but also areas where they won't get vandalized or hit by lawnmowers. And so, there's landscaping beds around the city that these could go in.
Are they freestanding? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, are they
They-
freestanding?
They'll have to be mounted to a concrete base. So we'll have to either pour concrete or have some, blocks or pads in place already. I know a volunteer that said they had a couple pads already. But they will have to be secured because some of them are definitely could tip over.
All right, and I'm gonna ask it. Are they all done by the same artist?
Yes.
And who is the
Well,
artist?
I think we need
Larry
to have that
Pogue,
discussion.
local artist.
I do think we need to have that discussion then. Sorry, guys. I, as an art teacher, truly believe that we need to have lots of art in our community. And I truly appreciate anybody that, artist-wise, that does so much. But we have a lot of artists in our community, and we've got one that did a beautiful mural. We've got a Larry Pogue out there by the library. We've had Gary Lucy do some, inside. How do I say this? I just don't think that we focus on one individual several times. I don't know how to say it any other way. I just don't. I'm sorry.
You want more artists than one, is what you're saying.
Yes, I think we have diversity, and I think we have talent, and I think there's a lot of it that is out there, and I don't think it's nothing against any particular individual, but I think in our community, since we have the diversity, and these are wonderful things that have been gifted to our community, but artist Larry Pogue has a beautiful sculpture already outside of our library. I don't know how many pieces are donated, but I don't know that necessarily that if it was Tessie Steffens, that you had 10 or 5 Tessie Steffens throughout the area. We need diversity. I'm not saying that there's not room to put, but I don't agree that we put 3 or 4 or 5.
Different spots.
I don't.
How many are you talking about, Wayne?
Yeah.
There's
what do-
quite a few. Chad and I have seen them. I don't have the actual inventory. Someone has them, but I'm still trying to track that down. And I, just off the top of my head from what I saw, I think there was like 15 pieces. Did you say that's?
15 pieces,
we-
that's a
That's
lot.
too much.
So we're only wanting to get just a couple out in the park at this time. And, the Art Council's looking for an area to put some out. And, they're still working through that, what they're going to do and what the plan is on that. But the city's purchased these, I guess, a couple of years ago, from what I understand. They've been in storage ever since, and so.
They were
Oh, yeah, they were donated, and we're just, hoping to get a couple out here in the spring, just to
Do we
get them
ask,
out.
do we ask the Art Council to come and speak to us about their intentions and what they have in mind?
Yeah, I met with Rebecca Mayer a couple Fridays ago. I think it was the 21st of February. But we met specifically, they were trying to find an area where they could put quite a few of them. She's still working through that. But I think it probably would be a good idea to have her or the group, the council, to come and maybe make a presentation, because I'm really looking to educate myself too, so.
Wayne?
So how many,
Kind of on the same subject. Isn't there a dead tree down in the valley that somebody was gonna
Yep,
carve or?
Yep.
yep,
Well,
it's
that's
still
the
there.
first-
The dead tree's still there. Do we know anything about that's ever gonna happen or?
I haven't heard that one.
Well, I mean, that's.
A totem pole.
I actually don't know that.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
that was, per our direction, that the art council was looking for somebody to carve that tree. And we're still waiting for that to happen. But, I mean, that's kind of why we were directed to leave it stand. I don't know who made that decision or who didn't make the decision. But that's why that tree's standing there. Or
I mean, it
the
looks
stump is
It looks terrible.
Where's that?
in the valley, right when you first come in
Right
off,
before,
off of Main.
right
Field.
If you
Down
go
Between-
around that turn, if you
Big
look
old
over,
dead
there's
tree
between
by the
between
creek.
Veterans and Maine.
sitting by the creek.
North Park. North Park.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Greg, I haven't heard anything that we've ever told anyone to save a tree, did we? I don't remember.
Well, somebody was gonna do a chain.
They were gonna
I
do
understand, but I don't think I recall.
But that's been what, 2-3 years ago?
Oh, every bit of that.
But at least two, it's been standing there.
way beyond my memory span.
I can look into
Speaking-
that.
Can I go off subject just a little bit?
I have a question on this one.
Okay.
What other sculpturists do we have in town other than Larry Pogue?
Well, we're talking artists in general.
Yeah.
Well, no, but he's talking about putting up sculptures, right? Do we have multiple?
Well, I don't think the city should, I mean, on my part, he's the only one that's brought it forth.
But I'm just, I don't know, to answer both questions, I don't know who all the people are that sculpture. I, to be honest, didn't know we had such talent to do the mural that was down there. So I don't think I can fairly answer that question. I will tell you, though, I don't think that 15 sculptures is a lot of sculptures by one artist in a community our size with the talent that we have. Now, I don't, maybe nobody knows that they could donate sculptures. This has really been the first real big discussion we've ever had about it. And he's got a beautiful one right now. I don't know, does Brian Haynes, does he do sculpture? I don't know.
I don't, no, I thought maybe you knew, that's the
No,
reason I asked.
no, I just would like, in the scope of putting a lot of beautiful art in our community, which I think is great, I just like diversity. I think that to go out, I think we just, and maybe artists don't know, and it's very nice that Larry Pogue donated what he did, very appreciative, but I don't know that we can hang 15 pieces.
No, we're only asking for 3, right?
But he's got 15.
Yeah, we have a number in storage. We're just wanting to get a couple out on display.
Right.
Just because they've been
Yeah.
in storage for so long.
I
And
mean, isn't.
There has to be a
isn't
bigger
the art
plan for the
council
other
going to
ones.
make the decision where the rest of those go?
I don't know. I would think that the art council would come and talk. I don't mean that rudely. I
No.
think the art council would come and make a presentation to the park board if they are asking to put artwork in our system.
Correct. Well, they,
That's what I would
Maybe
think.
the city ought to donate them back to the art council, and let them make.
Yeah, and that could be a recommendation too.
yeah.
Well, I don't think it's our job to find a place for 15 pieces of art.
I don't either.
I
But
don't either.
if there's another one or two that is a good spot, whether it be the front lane, again, like you said, where it's not gonna be vandal
Yeah.
and it's not gonna be rode by a lawnmower, to put these, put 4 of them out at the fairgrounds is not advantageous. It's not what we wanna do. I think we wanna look for that, if there's the right spot to put one, and if that spot becomes 2 spots, then that's something we can discuss.
Well, and like if they're talking about meeting with Mr. Eckelkamp, and maybe that one area would be a sculpture area, but we don't know.
And that's private property. We really don't have anything to do with that.
yeah, I see Rebecca was trying to meet with him by the end of February. And so I haven't heard back from her to see how that went. I meant to follow up with her today and I got.
I'm sure that they're going to, I mean, they came to us with the mural.
Yeah, they
and
did.
made a great presentation. They put it out. not for bids, but
I'd love to suggest, there may be a spot or two it would be great, but maybe a school would be somewhere, if something
Yeah.
like that would be a better spot, and not just everything on park property.
Seems like you should get the art council to say, to pick the locations first. Pick locations we want to have art.
And then,
And
then-
bring
Yeah, I
us
think that's
Then
pictures
put it
what
out
so
there,
we
hey,
can
we'd like to
see.
put an art here, and maybe 5 people will put in
Yeah.
nominations.
I
for
think
what should
that
go
would
there.
probably, that's a good idea. Have them come back to
Instead of giving
us
away the prime spot to somebody
and
that just happened to
recommend
give
what
one
they
to the
want to
city
do,
3 years
where they
ago.
want to put them.
And pictures. Would like to, because bring pictures, because if they're talking about a particular sculpture, don't.
Yeah,
I mean, we might want
They did a-
to,
they
we might
did-
want to erect a kiosk and have different artists have paintings inside of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Well,
trying to
that's-
throw out new ideas, but
I like that idea.
the art council may want to do that. That's
Yeah.
right, Mr. Set, you're
Yeah,
right. The
but
art
they
council-
did a very good job of making the presentation to
Yeah, I
us for
agree.
that, for the mural. They can do the
So-
same thing for this,
So
and
we're gonna just ask them to come and make a present, let them,
in other words, instead of one of us or two of us serving on, let them go out, look at the places where they're recommending, come back and make a proposal to us.
I think that's a great idea.
It's a great motion.
That's a great motion.
Oh, okay, I've already made the motion.
They could go.
I can't do that.
Different pieces.
I'm the chair.
I make Sparky's motion.
We have a motion by Gavin and second by Betty. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Doesn't get,
So be it.
So be it.
Okay, next meeting is April the 3rd.
Hey, don't forget my off-topic.
You're what? Oh, you had, you have, that's
Whoa, whoa,
correct.
whoa.
I'm sorry.
I would like to give a shout out to we were speaking of trees, and the Parks Department has been taking down and trimming trees in pretty, nasty, muddy, terrible conditions.
Yep.
And they've been doing a fabulous job of not tearing things up.
good,
And they
good
deserve-
recommendation.
They deserve a pat on the back.
I
Yes,
I
they
do have
do.
an off-topic question
Do.
for somebody. Are we getting anywhere on the disc golf?
It's too muddy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No,
I kind
it's-
of figured that was going to be the answer.
Every time we only have a day and time to drill a hole in the frozen ground and then trying to pour concrete, it just hasn't worked out. So we're hoping the weather holds out, we'll continue trying to do it, but,
When I get that phone call, I just want to.
yeah, well, and I'm concerned with
Waiting
it
for
too,
the
because
weather to break.
we have made that promise that we're gonna work on it, but the weather has not cooperated at all with us. And, I'm concerned because even this spring, we're gonna be starting on ball fields here real quick, as soon as the ground thaws out and it's not muddy no more. So that's really gonna push it off a little bit farther too.
But I did reach out to, is it Sean?
Sean.
Sean, the kind of the guy that's spearheading that, and, I don't know, mid to late January, and told him it's on our radar, but we're just dealing with all the snow and everything. And he seemed to totally understand that. Now, that's been a month ago or a month and a half ago now, but it keeps snowing every week, so.
I appreciate you calling them back.
We have all the stuff, we have the sonotube cut for the pads, we have everything ready to go, we just need the weather to cooperate. The street department actually hauled some rocks down there, and we were, before the last snow, when the ground was frozen, we were gonna run down there, but we had to work on the snowplow trucks to make sure that we're ready for the snow again, so that's, been a long haul of working on them all the time, so.
One last thing, I guess. Old corner. The bridge demo's coming up within a month or so. Are they putting up bleachers and stuff? I mean, there was some discuss, having some viewing areas. Is that something?
We actually have a meeting set for tomorrow morning, so we don't know exactly
When or
what, well, it's sometime in March, but I don't know, we don't have a
don't
final
have a
date,
date
and we
yet.
don't even know what they're requesting from us, or, it's, from my understanding, from the discussions I had, that we're not gonna spearhead that. The demolition company kind of took that over with all that stuff, so we were gonna see what they've done.
Yeah, we've been kind of just in waiting mode to wait for them to come to meet with us, and tomorrow's the day.
We had a proposed area, which was the prairie down there, and we have brush hog that down, so it is, it's all the grass has been mowed down, so we could use that, but there is an area that if they do decide to use that, we'd have to level it off, because it's pretty, from the floods and everything, it's pretty uneven. But like I said, we'll know more tomorrow, on that.
Any other questions? Comments? Next meeting, April 3rd. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
Yes. Motion to
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Good night, all.